Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front of his ship's control room, looking out at the red cloud of gas and dust that filled the space ahead. His hands gripped the metal railing as he watched the strange colors swirl and dance in the darkness. Every person in the galaxy knew about this place. They called it the Crimson Veil, and it was the most dangerous area of space anyone had ever found. The USS Defiance moved slowly through the empty space toward the red cloud. Jake had been a ship captain for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this before. The cloud stretched in every direction, bigger than most solar systems. It glowed with its own light, pulsing like a giant heart beating in the void. "Captain, we are getting warning messages from 17 different alien races," said Lisa Rodriguez from her seat at the communications desk. She was a young woman with dark hair who had joined the crew just 2 years ago. They were all saying the same thing. "Turn around and go back right now." Jake nodded but did not take his eyes off the red cloud. He had expected this. Every space-traveling race in the galaxy had the same rule about the Crimson Veil. No one goes in. No one even gets close. Ships that entered this area never came back out. The past 1,000 years, more than 300 vessels had vanished inside that red mist. Not one had ever been seen again. But Jake and his crew were not turning back. They had traveled for 6 months to reach this place, and they had a good reason for being here. Earth's scientists had found old records in an abandoned alien outpost. The records were damaged and hard to read, but they suggested something important was hidden inside the Forbidden Zone. Something that could change how the other races in the galaxy saw humanity. "How many crew members do we have on board?" Jake asked his second-in-command, a tall man named Ryan Carter, who had been with him for 8 years. 200 people, Sir Ryan answered. All volunteers. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip when they signed up. Jake felt proud of his crew. When Earth's government had asked for volunteers for this mission, more than 5,000 people had applied. They all knew the risks. They all knew that no ship had ever returned from the Crimson Veil, but they also knew that humanity needed to take chances if they wanted to survive in a galaxy full of older and more powerful races. The human race was still new to space travel compared to most other species. They had only been exploring beyond their own solar system for about 50 years. Many alien races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Some had technology that seemed like magic to human scientists. Earth needed every advantage they could find. "Beginning entry into the outer edge of the nebula," announced the pilot, a steady man named Ben Walsh, who had flown everything from small fighters to massive cargo ships. The moment the Defiance crossed into the red mist, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. The computer systems started flashing warnings on every screen. Temperature readings jumped up and down. The gravity generators made strange humming sounds they had never made before. "What is happening to our systems?" Jake called out to his chief engineer. Marcus Flynn looked up from his control panel with worry on his face. He was an older man with gray hair who had been fixing ships since before Jake was born. "I've never seen anything like this, Captain. It is like the nebula is doing things to our equipment. But nothing is actually broken. Everything still works. It just works differently now." Lisa Rodriguez pressed her hand against her earpiece and listened to the messages coming in from outside the nebula. "Sir, the alien fleets that were following us have stopped at the edge. They're sending us final warnings to turn back immediately. Some of them sound really scared." Jake was not surprised, according to the old records they had found. Every race in the galaxy had tried to explore the Crimson Veil at some point in their history. The lucky ones had turned back when they saw it. Unlucky ones had sent ships inside and never got them back. After enough failures, every government had declared the area completely off-limits. "Keep monitoring all frequencies," Jake told. "Lisa, let me know if anything changes out there." As the Defiance moved deeper into the red mist, strange things began happening. The ship's lights became brighter without using more power. The air recycling systems started working better than they ever had before. Even the food from the kitchen tasted better than usual, Dr. Amanda Walsh. The ship's head scientist ran test after test on her equipment. She was a smart woman who had spent her whole life studying space and the strange things found in it.
"Captain,
I am getting readings that do not make sense, she reported. This nebula is not just gas and dust. There is some kind of energy here that I cannot identify. It seems to be making everything on our ship work better. Jake felt excited and nervous at the same time. They were seeing things that no human had ever seen before. Maybe no one from any race had ever seen these things and lived to tell about it. Are we in any danger? He asked Dr. Walsh. She looked at her instruments again and shook her head slowly. I do not think so, sir. Whatever this energy is, it does not seem to be hurting us. If anything, it seems to be helping us. Ryan Carter studied the navigation. Charts on his screen. Captain, I am picking up something strange on the long-range sensors. There is some kind of structure ahead of us. It is very big. How big? Jake asked. Ryan checked his readings twice before answering. Bigger than anything we have ever built, sir. It's bigger than the largest space stations. Maybe bigger than some moons. Jake felt his heart start beating faster. This was exactly what the old records had hinted at. Something massive was hidden inside the Crimson Veil. Something so important that it had been worth the risk of coming here. All stop, he ordered. Hold our position. Want full sensor sweeps of whatever is out. There the ship slowed to a stop in the swirling red mist. For several minutes, the only sounds on the bridge were the quiet humming of computers and the soft beeping of sensor equipment. Everyone waited to see what they had found. Dr. Walsh looked up from her station with wide eyes. Captain, you need to see this. The structure ahead of us is not like anything in our databases. It is definitely artificial, but the materials and construction methods are completely unknown. And sir, the energy readings are incredible. Whatever that thing is, it is producing more power than our entire fleet back home. Jake stared out into the red mist, trying to see what lay ahead. Somewhere in that swirling cloud was the discovery that could change everything for humanity, could give them the knowledge and technology they needed to become equals with the older races. Or it could be the trap that had destroyed every other ship that had come looking for it. Take us forward slowly, he ordered, and keep all weapons ready, just in case. The USS Defiance moved deeper into the unknown, carrying 200 brave humans toward whatever waited in the heart of the Forbidden Zone. Behind them, alien fleets watched and waited, unable to believe that the crazy humans had actually entered the place where ships went to die. None of them expected to ever see the Defiance again. But Jake Morrison and his crew were about to prove that sometimes the biggest risks led to the most important discoveries. 3 days had passed since the USS Defiance entered the Crimson Veil. Captain Jake Morrison had barely slept during that time. His ship moved slowly through the red mist, following the strange energy readings that grew stronger with each passing hour. The crew worked in shifts, but everyone stayed alert. They all knew they were about to find something that would change their lives forever. Captain, the structure is coming into visual range, reported Ryan Carter from his navigation station. His voice was quiet, almost like he was afraid to speak too loudly. Jake looked at the main screen as the red mist began to clear in front of them. What he saw made him forget how to breathe for a moment. Floating in the darkness ahead was the most incredible thing any human had ever laid eyes on. The structure stretched out in every direction, so big that Jake could not see where it ended. It looked like someone had built a city in space, but it was unlike any city that had ever existed. Parts of it looked like metal and glass, shining in the light of distant stars. Other parts seemed to be alive, pulsing with soft blue and green lights that moved like blood through veins. "My God," whispered Dr. Amanda Walsh as she stared at her sensor readings. "This thing is hundreds of kilometers long, maybe thousands, and it is definitely not dead. I am reading massive energy production, but there is no nuclear fusion happening. It is like the structure is pulling power directly from empty space." The alien construct hung in the void like a sleeping giant. Its surface was covered with patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Some parts moved slowly, like they were breathing. Other sections rotated in perfect circles, creating a low humming sound that the ship's sensors could barely pick up. "Are there any life signs?" Jake asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. Dr. Walsh checked her instruments again. "Yes and no, sir. I am detecting something that might be life, but it is not like anything we know. readings are too strange to understand. It is like the whole structure is alive, but not in any way that makes sense. As the Defiance moved closer, something unexpected happened. Long streams of energy began reaching out from the construct toward their ship. Jake ordered his crew to ready the weapons, thinking they were under attack, but the energy streams did not hit their ship with force. Instead, they touched the hull gently, like fingers feeling for something. "Captain, our systems are changing again," called out Marcus Flynn from his engineering station. The old engineer looked confused but not frightened. "Everything is working better than it ever has. Our engines are running at 110% efficiency. It should be impossible. And the computer systems are processing information faster than I have ever seen." Jake watched his crew work at their stations. Everyone seemed more alert, more focused. Even the air in the ship felt cleaner and easier to breathe. Whatever the construct was doing to them, it was not hurting them. It seemed to be making them better. "Sir, I am receiving some kind of transmission," said Lisa Rodriguez from her communications post. "But it is not coming through our radio equipment. It's coming directly into my head." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of transmission? Before Lisa could answer, Jake felt it too. Images began appearing in his mind, but they were not his own memories. He saw stars being born and dying. He watched civilizations rise from nothing and grow to fill entire galaxies. He witnessed wars that lasted for millions of years and peace agreements that held for even longer. All around the bridge, the crew members stopped their work and stared into space as the same visions filled their minds. They saw the history of the universe itself, told through the eyes of beings so old and wise that their thoughts felt like looking directly into the sun. The visions showed them the truth about the construct. It had been built by a race that had lived longer than most stars. These ancient beings had grown beyond the need for physical bodies. They had become pure thought, pure energy, existing in ways that normal life could not understand. But before they had left the physical universe behind, they had built guardians to watch over the younger races that would come after them. Construct in the Crimson Veil was one of these guardians. It had been waiting here for thousands of years, testing any species brave enough or foolish enough to enter its domain. "It is some kind of test," Dr. Walsh said softly as the visions faded from their minds. "Every ship that came here before was tested by this thing, but they all failed." "Failed how?" Jake asked, though he had a feeling he already knew the answer. "They were afraid," Ryan Carter said, understanding flooding his face. "Every other race that came here saw this construct and thought it was a weapon or a trap. They either ran away or tried to fight it. But it was never trying to hurt anyone. It was trying to find someone worthy of what it protects." The construct began to communicate with them more directly. The voice that spoke in their minds was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was simply ancient and patient, like the voice of time itself. "For 1,000 of your years, ships have come to this place," the voice said inside their heads. "All sought to take what is here for their own power. None asked what purpose this place serves. None showed wisdom, only greed or fear." Jake found the courage to speak aloud to the construct. "We did not come here to take anything. We came to learn. Humanity is young compared to other races in the galaxy. We need knowledge, not weapons." The construct was quiet for a long moment. Jake could feel it studying his mind, reading his thoughts and memories. It looked at his reasons for coming here. It examined his crew and their motivations. It searched for any sign of the greed and hunger for power that had driven other species. "Interesting," the ancient voice finally said. "You speak of learning rather than conquering. Your species shows curiosity where others showed only ambition. But words are easy to speak. Actions reveal truth. Are you willing to prove your worthiness?" Jake looked around at his crew. Every face showed determination mixed with fear. They had come this far. They could not turn back now. "What kind of proof do you need?" Jake asked. "You will face challenges that test not your weapons or your technology, but your character," the construct explained. "Other races have failed because they sought power without wisdom. They wanted strength without responsibility. Humanity is different. You must show it." Dr. Walsh stepped forward. What happens if we fail these tests? The same thing that happened to the others, the construct replied. You will be sent away with your memories changed. You will remember only that this place is dangerous and should never be visited again. Your species will add another warning to the others, and the galaxy will continue as it always has. And if we succeed, Jake asked, the ancient voice grew warmer, almost pleased. If you succeed, everything changes. For your species and for the galaxy itself. Jake felt the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. He was not just deciding for himself or even for his crew. He was making a choice that could affect all of humanity and every other race in the galaxy. He thought about the 300 ships that had vanished in this place over the past 1,000 years. Had their crews faced this same choice? Had they been too afraid or too proud to accept the test? Jake looked at his crew one more time. Lisa Rodriguez nodded at him with confidence. Ryan Carter gave him a thumbs up. Dr. Walsh smiled and said quietly, We came here to make a difference, Captain. Let us see if we can. We accept your test, Jake announced to the construct. The ancient guardian was silent for several seconds. When it spoke again, Jake could hear something like approval in its voice. Then let the testing begin. The testing began immediately after Captain Jake Morrison accepted the challenge. The ancient construct created a strange energy field around the USS Defiance, and suddenly everything changed. The bridge disappeared around Jake, and he found himself standing alone in a place that looked like Earth but was not Earth. He was in a military command center during what looked like a terrible war. Computer screens showed battle maps with red dots moving across them. Soldiers ran back and forth carrying messages and reports. The sound of explosions echoed from somewhere far away. Sir, we have a problem, said a young officer who Jake had never seen before, but somehow knew was his second-in-command in this strange vision. The enemy has taken the civilian city of New Haven. They are using the people there as human shields. Jake looked at the main screen and saw the situation clearly. His forces could win the war today, but only if they attacked the city where innocent families were being held captive. If he chose to save the civilians, his army would lose, and the war would continue for years, costing many more lives. What are my options? Jake asked, though part of his mind knew this was not real. We can bomb the city and win the war now, the officer explained. Or we can find another way, but it will take much longer and more of our soldiers will die. Jake felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He could hear the voices of his generals urging him to take the quick victory. They reminded him of all the lives that would be saved if the war ended today. But Jake also thought about the children and families in New Haven who had done nothing wrong. No, Jake said firmly. We do not attack cities full of innocent people. Find me another way to win this war. The vision faded, and Jake found himself back on the bridge of his ship. Around him, his crew members were waking up from their own tests. Each person looked shaken, but determined. Dr. Amanda Walsh was the first to speak. I was in a medical facility during a plague outbreak, she said quietly. I had enough medicine to save my own crew, but not enough for both my people and an alien species that was also dying. I was told that saving the aliens would mean letting my own people die. What did you choose? Jake asked. I chose to find a third option, she replied. I worked for days in the vision, testing different combinations of treatments. I found a way to stretch the medicine far enough to save everyone. It was not easy, but it was possible. One by one, the crew members shared their test experiences. Ryan Carter had been asked to choose between following orders that would hurt innocent people or disobeying his commanders to do what was right. He had chosen to find a way to do the right thing while still showing respect for authority. Lisa Rodriguez had been tested on whether she would tell the truth even when lies would be easier and safer. She had chosen honesty, even knowing it might cause her trouble. Marcus Flynn had been given control of a power source that could make him incredibly wealthy, but would also pollute an entire planet. He had refused to use it, even though it meant staying poor. Each test had been different, but they all had the same purpose. The ancient construct wanted to see if humans would choose what was right over what was easy. It wanted to know if they would think about others even when it cost them something important. Your species shows promise, the ancient voice spoke in their minds again. Most races we have tested think only of immediate gain. Choose power over wisdom, victory over justice, but you have shown something different. Jake felt proud of his crew, but he also sensed that the testing was not over. What happens now? He asked. Now comes the most important test of all, the construct replied. This test is for you alone, Captain Morrison. Your choices will determine not just your fate, but the fate of your entire species. The bridge disappeared again, but this time Jake found himself in what looked like a vast library. The shelves stretched up so high that he could not see the ceiling. Every book, every data crystal, every piece of information that had ever been collected was stored here. This is the archive of all knowledge, the ancient voice explained. Here is stored the wisdom of every civilization that has ever existed. The secrets of faster-than-light travel, unlimited energy, weapons that could destroy stars, medicine that could make your people immortal. All of this could be yours. Jake walked between the shelves, amazed by what he saw. There were technologies here that could solve every problem humanity had ever faced. Poverty, disease, war, death itself could all become things of the past. What is the cost? Jake asked. Because he had learned that nothing this valuable came without a price. The cost is responsibility, the construct replied. If you take this knowledge back to your people, humanity will become the most powerful race in the galaxy. Other species will fear you. Some will try to destroy you before you become too strong. Others will serve you because they have no choice. Your people will have the power to rule over all others. Jake continued walking through the library, touching books that contained the secrets of the universe. He thought about what this knowledge could do for humanity. No more hunger, no more sickness. No more watching loved ones grow old and die. It was everything any leader could want for his people. But there is another choice, the ancient voice continued. You can choose to learn not just the knowledge, but the wisdom that must go with it. You can accept the responsibility of protecting others rather than ruling over them. This path is harder, but it leads to something greater than power. Jake stopped walking and turned to face the empty air where he felt the presence of the ancient being. What do you mean by protecting others? Long ago, we discovered that with great knowledge comes great temptation, the construct explained. Every civilization that grows powerful enough will eventually face the same choice your people face now. They can use their power to take what they want, or they can use it to help those who are weaker. Most choose to take, Jake said, understanding. Yes, and when they do, they eventually destroy themselves, and often many others as well. That is why we built these guardians. We hoped that someday a species would arise that could handle power without being corrupted by it, species that could become protectors instead of conquerors. Jake looked around the infinite library one more time. All the knowledge in the universe was here for the taking. He could return to Earth as the greatest hero in human history. His people would have technology that made them gods compared to other races. But Jake thought about the tests his crew had just passed. They had all chosen to do what was right rather than what was easy. They had shown that humans could think about others even when it cost them something valuable. If we become these protectors, Jake asked, what would that mean for humanity? It would mean accepting a burden that would last for thousands of years. The construct replied honestly. Your people would need to help guide younger races, protect them from dangers they do not understand, and prevent older races from abusing their power. You would have access to great knowledge, but you could not use it just for your own benefit. Jake closed his eyes and thought about his crew, waiting for him back on the ship. He thought about the billions of people on Earth who were counting on this mission to improve their lives. He thought about all the other species in the galaxy, some of whom had treated humanity poorly because humans were young and weak. The easy choice would be to take the knowledge and make humanity powerful enough that no one could ever look down on them again. But Jake remembered the lessons from his test. Sometimes the right choice was not the easy choice. I accept the responsibility, Jake said clearly. Humanity will be protectors, not conquerors. The library began to fade around him, but before it disappeared completely, Jake heard something in the ancient voice that he had not heard before. It sounded like relief, and maybe even hope. When the library vision faded, Captain Jake Morrison found himself back on the bridge of the USS Defiance. But something had changed. The ancient construct was no longer just a voice in their heads. A figure made of pure light stood before them. Tall and graceful, with features that seemed to shift between different alien forms. "You have chosen wisely, Captain Morrison," the being said, and now its voice came from everywhere at once. "In all the centuries we have waited, you are the first to choose responsibility over power. But before you can accept this burden, you must understand what it truly means." Jake looked around at his crew. They all seemed different somehow, more focused and alert. Dr. Amanda Walsh was studying readings on her instruments that showed numbers he had never seen before. Ryan Carter was looking at navigation charts that displayed parts of the galaxy that were supposed to be empty. Everything on the ship was working at levels that should have been impossible. "What is happening to us?" Jake asked. The light being moved closer, and Jake could feel ancient wisdom radiating from it, like heat from a fire. "You are being prepared for your new role. But first, you must learn the truth about this place and why it exists." The being gestured, and suddenly, the bridge's main screen showed images that made Jake's mind struggle to understand what he was seeing. The Crimson Veil was not just a nebula, it was a prison. "Long ago there was a race we called the Devourers," the being explained. "They grew powerful by consuming entire star systems for energy. They would arrive at a solar system, drain all the heat and light from the sun, and move on to the next one. Billions of living beings died as their worlds froze in the darkness." Screen showed the terrible history. Jake watched planets covered with ice and death. He saw the last moments of civilizations that had existed for thousands of years, all destroyed in days when their suns went cold. "We tried to reason with them," the being continued. "We offered them other sources of energy. We tried to teach them how to create power without destroying life, but they could not be stopped. They saw all other forms of life as nothing more than food to be consumed." Dr. Walsh looked up from her instruments with wide eyes. "Are you saying they are still here, in this nebula? They sleep at the heart of this prison," the being confirmed. "We sacrificed our physical forms to create a barrier that would hold them. But the prison requires constant maintenance. It needs guardians who understand both the technology to maintain it and the wisdom to resist the temptation to use the Devourer's power for themselves." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "How many of them are there? Enough to consume half the galaxy before any force could stop them," the being replied grimly. "That is why every species that has come here has been tested. We needed to find a race that could be trusted with this responsibility." The light being showed them more images on the screen. Jake saw the testing of other species over the centuries. The proud Xanthari Empire had sent their greatest warships, but when they learned about the imprisoned Devourers, they immediately tried to figure out how to use them as weapons against their enemies. The peaceful, melodic collective had run away in terror when they understood the danger. The machine intelligence known as the Network had calculated that the risk was too great and had forbidden all future contact. "Every race we tested failed, for the same reasons," the being explained. "They either wanted to use the Devourers as weapons, or they were too afraid to accept the responsibility of guarding them." Lisa Rodriguez spoke up from her communications station. "Sir, I am receiving urgent messages from the alien fleets outside the nebula. They are demanding that we respond and tell them what is happening in here." Jake looked at the being of light. "They do not know the truth, do they? We allowed them to believe this was simply a dangerous area of space. We thought it was safer if they stayed away out of fear rather than curiosity. But now that humanity has proven worthy, everything must change." The being moved to the center of the bridge, and Jake could feel power radiating from it like electricity in the air. "The time of secrets is ending. Your species will become the new guardians of this prison. You'll have access to technology. Beyond your current understanding, you will gain knowledge that could advance your civilization by thousands of years. But you will also accept the burden of protecting the galaxy from a threat that could destroy everything." Ryan Carter asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "What happens to us? Do we have to stay here forever?" "Some of you will stay to learn from us directly," the being replied. "Others will return to your people to begin preparing them for their new role. Your ship will be changed, enhanced with our technology, so that it can serve as a bridge between your old life and your new responsibilities." As if responding to the being's words, the USS Defiance began to transform around them. The metal walls started to shimmer and change color. New displays appeared at every workstation, showing information about parts of the galaxy that humans had never seen. The ship's engines began humming with a deeper, more powerful sound. Dr. Walsh watched her instruments change and upgrade themselves before her eyes. This is incredible. These sensors can detect energy patterns from halfway across the galaxy. And this computer system is processing information faster than our best supercomputers back on Earth. With great technology comes great temptation, the being warned. Your people will want to use these tools for conquest, for making themselves the masters of the galaxy. You must guide them to use their new power wisely. Jake understood the weight of what was being offered to humanity. They would become more powerful than any other race in the galaxy, but only if they used that power to protect others rather than dominate them. What about the other alien races? Jake asked. When they see what we have become, they will be afraid. They might try to stop us. Yes, they will, the being agreed. Fear makes people do foolish things. Some will try to destroy you before you become too powerful. Others will try to steal your technology. Few might even try to release the Devourers, thinking they can control them. The being gestured again, and the main screen showed the current positions of alien fleets throughout the galaxy. Jake could see massive warships moving toward the Crimson Veil from dozens of different star systems. News of humanity's survival in the Forbidden Zone was spreading fast, and it was causing panic. This is why the transition must be handled carefully. The being explained, "Your people must prove to the galaxy that they can be trusted with this power. They must show that humans will use their new abilities to protect rather than conquer." Marcus Flynn looked up from his engineering station, where completely new systems were installing themselves. "How long do we have before those fleets arrive?" 3 days, the being replied. "In that time, you must decide which of your crew will stay here to continue their training and which will return to Earth to begin preparing your people. You must also decide how to reveal the truth to the other races without causing a galactic war." Jake felt the enormous responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was no longer just a ship captain. He was about to become the leader of humanity's transformation into something completely new. The decisions he made in the next few days would affect every living being in the galaxy. "We accept this responsibility," Jake said firmly. "But we will need guidance. Humanity is still young. We will make mistakes." "All races make mistakes," the being replied kindly. "What matters is learning from them and always remembering that power should serve wisdom, not the other way around." The ancient guardian began to fade, but its voice remained strong and clear. "Your real test begins now, Captain Morrison. The trials you faced were just the beginning." 3 days later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of a ship that was no longer quite the same USS Defiance. The vessel had been transformed by the ancient technology, its hull now gleaming with patterns of light that pulsed like a living heartbeat. Every system worked better than before, and new equipment had grown from the walls like metallic plants reaching toward the sun. Jake had made his decisions about who would stay and who would return to Earth. Dr. Amanda Walsh had volunteered to remain at the Guardian Station to study the ancient technology. Ryan Carter would go back home to help prepare Earth's government for the changes coming to humanity. Marcus Flynn would stay to learn how to maintain the new ship systems. Lisa Rodriguez would return to help establish communication protocols. With other alien races, the hardest choice had been his own. Jake had decided to stay in the Crimson Veil and become humanity's first guardian. He would learn from the ancient beings and help guide his species through the difficult transition. Ahead. "Captain, the alien fleets have arrived at the edge of the nebula," Lisa reported from her transformed communications station. "I count ships from 17 different species. They're demanding answers." Jake looked at the main screen, which now showed the approaching fleets with crystal clarity. Massive warships from the Zenthari Empire hung in space like metal mountains. The sleek vessels of the Melodic Collective moved in perfect formation. Even the mysterious machine ships of the network had come to see what the humans had discovered. "Open a channel to all ships," Jake ordered. The screen flickered, and suddenly, Jake found himself looking at the faces of alien commanders from across the galaxy. Some looked curious, others appeared frightened, and a few seemed angry. They all wanted to know the same thing. How had the humans survived in the place where ships went to die? "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Defiance," Jake began, speaking clearly so that the translation systems could understand him. "We have survived our journey into the Crimson Veil, and we bring news that will change everything for all our species." Admiral Krex of the Zenthari Empire spoke first, his blue-scaled face showing suspicion. "What have you found in there, human? What technology have you taken from that cursed place?" "We have not taken anything," Jake replied. Calmly, "We have been given a responsibility." Jake explained the truth about the Crimson Veil. He told them about the ancient guardians, the imprisoned devourers, and the tests that every species had faced over the centuries. He watched their expressions change from suspicion to disbelief, to fear as they understood what had been hidden in the Forbidden Zone all along. "You expect us to believe this story?" demanded Commander Lyrics of the Melodic Collective, her musical voice sharp with doubt. "You claim that humans have been chosen to guard some ancient prison? Why would any advanced race trust such a young species with that responsibility?" "Because we proved we could be trusted," Jake answered simply. "We chose wisdom over power, protection over conquest." The alien commanders began arguing among themselves, their voices overlapping as the translation systems struggled to keep up. Some wanted to attack the humans immediately, convinced that they were lying about their peaceful intentions. Others wanted to flee, terrified by the news about the Devourers. Few seemed interested in learning more. Enough, came a new voice, deeper and more mechanical than the others. It belonged to Node Prime of the network, the artificial intelligence that spoke for billions of machine minds. "Humans speak truth. Network confirms energy readings consistent with described prison technology. The question remains, what happens?" Now, Jake had expected this question. "Now we prove that humanity can handle this responsibility. We invite any species that wishes to undergo the same tests we faced. Those who pass will be welcome to join us as guardians. Those who do not will return home with the knowledge that the galaxy is being protected." "And if we refuse to accept your authority?" Admiral Krex asked, his hand moving toward what Jake assumed was a weapons control. "We are not claiming authority over anyone," Jake replied firmly. "We are offering partnership. The ancient prison requires constant maintenance. The more races that help with this responsibility, the safer the galaxy will be." At that moment, something extraordinary happened. The ancient guardian being appeared on all the ships at once, its form of pure light visible to every alien commander. They gasped and stammered as the ancient wisdom spoke directly to their minds. "The humans speak truthfully," the guardian said in a voice that carried the weight of eons. "For 1,000 years, your peoples have avoided this place out of fear. The humans came here out of curiosity and stayed out of courage. They have proven themselves worthy of the knowledge and responsibility we offer." Commander Lyrics found her voice first. "If this is true, if the humans have really been chosen as guardians, what does that mean for the rest of us?" "It means the galaxy is safer than it has been for centuries," the guardian replied. "The Devourers remain imprisoned, and now there are beings capable of maintaining that prison. But this is not a burden humanity must bear alone. Any species that proves itself worthy through the tests of character may join them." Over the following hours, Jake watched as the alien fleets made their choices. Some ships turned around and headed home, their commanders deciding they wanted nothing to do with ancient prisons and cosmic responsibilities. Others requested permission to enter the nebula and face the tests themselves. The first to accept the challenge was Captain Zara of the research vessel Harmony from the Melodic Collective. Her ship entered the red mist and emerged 3 hours later, transformed like the Defiance had been. Captain Zara reported that she and her crew had passed the tests and would remain to help with the Guardian duties. Over the next several days, representatives from 7 different species underwent the trials. Most failed, as the Guardians had expected. The Zenthari military officers tried to find ways to use the prison technology as a weapon and were sent away. their memories adjusted. The merchants from the Trade Federation saw only profit opportunities and also failed, but a few succeeded. A group of scientists from the peaceful Cathara Republic passed their tests by choosing knowledge over personal gain. A ship full of explorers from the Wanderer clans proved their worthiness by showing they valued discovery more than conquest. Jake found himself working alongside beings he had only read about in Earth's alien contact reports. They shared duties maintaining the prison's energy barriers, studying the ancient technology, learning from the Guardians who had watched over the galaxy for so long. The most important moment came when Jake received a transmission from Earth. The human government had been informed about the situation, and President Maria Santos appeared on the screen looking both proud and worried. "Captain Morrison, the entire planet is talking about what you and your crew have accomplished," she said. "But we need to know. What does this mean for humanity's future?" Jake thought carefully about his answer. "It means we have grown up, Madam President, are no longer the youngest species in the galaxy, trying to prove ourselves. We are now one of its protectors. With that comes great power, but also great responsibility. And you believe humanity is ready for this?" Jake looked around. The transformed bridge where humans and aliens worked side by side, monitoring systems that kept an ancient evil safely imprisoned. "I believe we are learning to be ready, I know, and that is what matters most." 6 months later, the Crimson Veil had been renamed the Guardian Sanctuary. Ships from dozens of species came there not in fear, but seeking to prove themselves worthy of joining the Protectors. The galaxy had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to protect. And at the heart of it all, the crew of the USS Defiance continued their watch, proving every day that humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through the courage to do what was right.